Welcome back, everybody. We are on part 2 of our main event for this episode 318, I think, of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. We have talked about the future endeavors forecast of 2018. Now we got to turn around to the flip side of things, the positives, because the people that complain that we are never talking about anything positive, tough shit. This is going to be a whole section of it. This is the, I guess you could kind of call it the breakout star list of the year. But it doesn't necessarily need to be breakout star. I mean, there's going to be people that we're going to talk about that are already bona fide stars. It's more so just who's going to have a good year. And I tend to, when I'm making my list, I already eliminate the top brass more than anybody. So you're not going to hear much discussion from me about the idea of like, Roman Reigns is going to win the Universal title. Yeah, well, no shit he is. We knew that since last year. Roman Reigns is always going to be a top guy. So what's the point in talking about it? You know what I mean? Same thing with AJ Styles. Same thing with Brock Lesnar. John Cena's never not going to be a priority. At that point, it's a given. So I think we can kind of brush past some of those people. We have other people that we have that could get massive jumps up, though. And I'm going to start off with somebody that I think is going to be a huge part of NXT this year. And his a potential opponent too. I think NXT is going to be great once we can get Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa facing off. And I think we might see that as soon as TakeOver Philly. There's a good chance Gargano beats Almas for that title. And if he does, Ciampa is the next in line. And if he doesn't, it might be because Ciampa returns and costs him the match. But Gargano Ciampa at NXT TakeOver New Orleans, I'm thinking that's guarantee. And I'm thinking that has a very solid chance of being match of the year. That, I think, is something that I'm more confident in than some of the other things I'm going to be saying a little bit later on. But Gargano is going to be the face of NXT, I think. And by the end of the year, he's either winning that NXT championship or he's coming up to the main roster and he's going to be I feel like quite a bit of momentum, I think, going forward. I think that they know that Gargano is somebody that they can put a little bit of confidence in. And I also think that their confidence in him means that Candice LeRae is going to get a job. And she's good, too. I mean, like, on her own, she'd be perfectly fine to bring into NXT without even doing the Mae Young Classic. But Gargano is going to be a little bit of an extra boost to that. So I think he's going to get, like, this weird situation where he's going to get a bump up this year and his friend is going to get a bump up because of how good he is and his wife is going to get a good bump up because of how good he is. And at the end of 2018, Ciampa and Candice LeRae are going to look at Gargano and other people in NXT are going to look at him. They're going to be like, hey, thanks, pal. You know what I mean? I got a lot riding on Gargano. I think he's great.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you in that regard. I think Ciampa versus Gargano is going to be the feud that runs NXT essentially for the entirety of 2018.
Yeah. And I think that if they bump him up to the main roster at the end of 2018, he could be somebody that doesn't necessarily even need to go to the 205 live section. I think that he might actually be in that running for mid-card of SmackDown. Possibility.
I'd hope so.
I'm going to toss out another name here. Why not? Aleister Black. He is another person I think that could win that NXT championship. I think that he can go up to the main roster now, pretty much. They can put him on the 205 live section. They can put him in the mid card of Raw or SmackDown. I hope that they don't put him in a tag team, but they value the hell out of him. And he is not going to stop that anytime soon. This dude's going to get a big push going forward. So I bet a lot of chips on that, and I should have said I'll bet on Black because that would have been a better pun. Damn it. I'm going to bet on 32. Real stupid. Yeah, Aleister Black is another one I think is pretty much guaranteed at this point. Pass it around to you guys. Toss a name out. Why not?
The glorious one, Bobby Roode. He's going to be a world champion by the end of the year.
He's on my list as well.
They are so high on him, and he looks like Triple H, so that doesn't hurt.
He's right now my number one pick of who's going to win Money in the Bank.
I can see that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean,
is it SmackDown again?
No, it's supposed to be a co-branded one this year.
Oh, that's
good.
That's smarter.
Yeah, it's like you would have thought they would have done that from the very beginning. I don't know why the hell they thought SmackDown only was a good idea. But it makes sense now. Like, you do a men's Money in the Bank and you do a women's Money in the Bank, co-branded. You add a couple people for each show. Leading up to the show, you have qualifying matches, which means people get invested in who is actually in those matches. And you think about the card. You have a 5-hour or 6-hour show. Yeah, 6-hour show. Pre-show, 2 hours, 4 hours for the regular thing, the same as you would with the Big Four. Money in the Bank has been consistently considered the Big Five, if they were going to do a Big Five. You put the world title match on the line, the universal title match, and then you start throwing in the mid-carders and stuff into there. You can easily build a pay-per-view around that. And Bobby Roode stands out to me more than anybody else. That dude winning Money in the Bank just makes sense. It's part of his gimmick. He should be a heel at that point. If he isn't, he can cash in and turn heel by doing that. And I hope that if they do that, that they leave it where you can challenge for either world title. Instead of just being like, the winner can only challenge for their brand, you know?
Randomly shows up on Raw, cashes in on like Roman or something like that. That'd be huge.
That would be so good if he did that. The only downside to that is he wouldn't be booed.
No, oh God.
If he beats
You won't
Roman
get booed
Reigns.
regardless. You won't get booed regardless, but you can still be a heel.
Yeah. Bobby Roode's definitely on my list. Very glad that you brought him up. Good job, Dace. Here's a cookie.
He's a glorious one, man. High on him since he came over from TNA. Good career choice. Sucks that you wait until you were 40, but good career choice.
Still, he looks better than most of the people that are half his age.
Very true.
You give me, I don't know, like some of the people in the UK division thing. Like, what was that dude's name? The bald dude.
Danny Burch?
No, I actually kind of like Danny Burch. The one who got beaten up by Pete Dunne.
Oh, there were a lot of people like that. I can't remember.
I don't remember. He was bald and he kind of looked like a baby a little bit. But, yeah, that guy's like, I don't know, like 23 or something like that. And it's just kind of like, I don't see much going on here. Then Bobby Roode's like 40 and you're just kind of like, yeah, you're the future. And it's like, you can't really be the future when you're 40, but it still works. I like it. What about, I actually have a lot of NXT people on my list now that I'm looking at it. Holy shit, almost anybody's from NXT.
Well, because NXT is like so much better. It's like, how can you have a breakout in WWE when the main roster seems to be so limited, it feels, in terms of movement?
I actually do have somebody from the main roster that's not my number one pick. And it's Chad Gable. I think we're going to see him split from Shelton Benjamin, and I think he's finally going to start becoming that mid-carder. Last year, we saw that he had a lot of potential to be a United States champion, and they just didn't capitalize on it for some reason. I think this year they will. I have a little bit of faith in Gable.
That makes him sound like a dick.
Yeah. He's a good asshole.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like Chad Gable a lot. I just think there's one reason why he's not going to be a breakout star for 2018. He's very small.
Yeah, he is, but I mean, we've seen Daniel Bryan.
In charge, yeah, I know, but he was not as over as Daniel Bryan was.
No, I mean, there's no comparison.
Yeah, so if you're small and you're not that over at the moment, then it's a little bit more difficult. I mean, it's not completely out of the question because he's a fantastic wrestler, but I think if WWE did see it in him, they would have done something with it now. I think the fact that he keeps getting thrown into tag teams makes me feel like, yeah, they don't really think you're going to be good on your own, so they need to give you someone else.
I think that they just couldn't resist the idea of trying to redo American Alpha to make the jokes about it. Because they've been having a lot of jokes of just kind of like, oh, look at that. Hey, it's Jason Jordan. I mean, Shelton Benjamin. Might have been just like Vince backstage, just kind of like laughing at that idea, being like, hey, Shelton, come back to the company. You can play Jason Jordan 2.0. Yeah. I have a little bit of faith in them, though. This is the time of the year before I start going, they fucked up. Give me a week. That's all it'll take. Callum, you have a lot of people on your list, so I'm sure that there's going to be some crossover.
Well, I'll start with one that nobody would have on the list, and probably most people listening won't even know who they are. But Christopher Dijak, I have on my list. For those that do know who he is or who he was on the independent scene as Donovan Dijak, he was a big star in Ring of Honor. He's wrestled on a lot of independent scenes. He actually has, I know the Meltzer scale, you can kind of take it or leave it. It's not obviously foolproof, but he had a 5-star match in 2017 and by those rankings with Keith Lee at PWG's Battle of Los Angeles. And he was signed by WWE late last year and is now just doing live events. I can definitely see him coming up to the NXT roster and making a big impact immediately because he's really, I think he's about 6'4", 6'5", but he does like kip ups and he moves very agile. Like he's very agile superstar as well. So I think he'll go in and make an impression almost immediately.
Now, I haven't seen much of him, but I did see just like the most basic breakdown of like, I don't know, some YouTube video where it was like a highlight reel or something. And he is tall as shit. So,
yeah.
You know that WWE looked at him and went like, get that man a contract immediately, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think he's got more upside just than his height, but I think that will definitely help him if he wants to progress.
The downside to me with that is there's a couple people in NXT that are kind of tall like that, like Cesar Bononi, or however the fuck you pronounce it. And we had talked about Dan Matha, so that guy's a big guy too. And if he stands out, then that's great. And if he doesn't, then he just gets lost in this shuffle of other big men around his side.
I just think his advantage is the fact that he was on the independent scene for a number of years before coming to WWE. So he, at least they know he can do it. He's not just somebody that was just come from like their development territory. Like was just trained up in the performance center. He's done it before. He's just now being essentially reconditioned to the WWE style. That's just my view. If we're looking at other people from more of an NXT side of things, Velveteen Dream.
He's not on my list, but I think that's just because I've kind of taken for granted how awesome he is. I think I like subconsciously just put him down as like, oh yeah, it's a guarantee. Like,
I think he's someone that could be NXT champion if they decide to take Gargano and Ciampa away from the title scene until like towards the end of the year or something along those lines, or just be a challenger for Gargano if they decide to take a break from Ciampa. I think even though he's still learning and he's still very young, his gimmick has gone over to the point that he could just be moved to the main roster almost immediately.
He's so good though. Like,
yeah. I mean, I'm definitely like in agreement that he's like great and he could be on the main roster because he showed in the match with Aleister Black that if you give him the right opponent, he could just like blow everybody away. And he's got more character than a lot of people on the main roster currently. Just worried that when he does get moved up, it will get reduxed or they'll have to cut certain things back because you know it's not always going to go as perfectly as you'd hope. But I have faith in him being either a top star in NXT or slotting nicely into the mid card of either Raw or SmackDown.
You know, Dace, you don't really watch NXT as much, but Velveteen Dream, if he's not on your radar, man, he's perfect for somebody that you could get behind.
Will it piss off Dane?
I don't know.
I will absolutely do it if it pisses off Dane. Because my superstar of the year to watch out is Zack Ryder. He's coming back. It's going to be a big year. I'm feeling that he pins Rusev in a number 1 contenders match and then wins the WWE Championship.
Peter right now is like, yes!
Woo, woo, woo. You know it, bro. God, it's something that can never get old.
I think he needs to wait another like 5-6 more years before he wins his next title. I'm counting down the days for that. Like, he seems to. What was the distance between him winning the United States Championship and winning the Intercontinental title? It was about like 4 or 5 years, wasn't it?
I think so.
What was it? 2011 is when he won the United States, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then 2016 he won the Intercontinental. So by 2021, I'm going to say he's my one to watch for the
year. The moment he won that Intercontinental title, though, that was the greatest moment in my career as a fan watching. and the disbelief that poured over Dane's face.
You gotta be kidding me. This is bullshit. I think this one's kind of an easy one to pick. And I don't even think that's worth discussion, but Asuka, I mean,
Yeah,
obvious. You know,
We're not,
quite
we're
a
not
big
ready
one.
for
Yeah.
Asuka.
like, she's winning that title, and that's the end of it. I still think she's the top choice to win the Royal Rumble too. The only other person that can win is Ronda Rousey, and if they do that, then I'll be a little bit shocked because that not only means Ronda Rousey competes, but that she competes twice, and we'll see. But Asuka is a guarantee, and I thought originally when I wrote this up, because I wrote up my list a couple about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had Shinsuke Nakamura down tied in with her as just a guarantee. I thought that he would they both win the Royal Rumbles and that they would both win their respective titles at WrestleMania. And now I'm not feeling so hot on Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't think he's working out as well as they thought that he would.
No, I wouldn't risk putting Shinsuke Nakamura as a one to watch for this year, because I would have probably done it for last year and been proven utterly wrong, because even though he was fighting he walked into 2016 as the NXT, 2017, I should say, as the NXT champion. He didn't really do much on the main roster, even though he fought for the title a few times. He never won it, and I just don't think they put him in that position, which is odd, but I just don't think they see him as a WWE champion.
Who's the never mind, they can't do that. I was going to talk about the United States title, and given that to Nakamura, they can't possibly do Jinder Mahal as the United States champion and go back to that Shinsuke Nakamura feud. No, impossible.
You never know.
I do think Jinder Mahal's winning that title, though.
Really? I think it's Bobby Roode.
I would think that it would be, but I think that they saw at least a little bit of potential in Jinder Mahal, and they just realized that they went with the wrong title, and that's why they're doing this whole switch up. So that way he could still do the anti-American thing.
I think,
like, the actual United States champion and stuff.
I think Bobby returns or wins it, and then Ziggler returns to feud with him.
That could work too. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the US title tournament, I can just link that into one of my ones to watch, which again probably most people won't expect, but Mojo Rawley. He is winning the United States Championship this year.
You think?
I'm laying it down now. That is 100% guaranteed by me. He's winning the United States Championship this year.
God, I hope not.
They clearly have, they clearly back him. They wouldn't have, even though they never capitalized on him winning the Battle Royal, they wouldn't have done that if they didn't think he had something. This year he'll win the title and probably won't do anything, but he'll still win the title.
Part of me's kind of hoping he just goes over to Raw in the Superstar Shakeup and then stops existing a little bit.
I mean, it's one of those.
I'm on the flagship show, and then they're like, "Yeah, but what are you doing this week?" I don't know. They said nothing.
It's one of those two options. So I'm just sticking my neck on the him winning a title this year. He's not my main one to watch. But
that's where we go. Mojo Rawley wins the United States title in the tournament, and afterward feuds with Zack Ryder, and then Zack Ryder wins the United States title, and then
I didn't say he'd win it in the tournament. I said he'd win it this year.
That's true.
I'm thinking more like SummerSlam time, but he won't win it in the tournament. He will lose to Bobby Roode in the tournament, but he'll win it later on in the year.
Let's see. This one's an easy one. I could just skip by it. Ember Moon. She'll do good. She'll have an NXT Women's Championship run for a while, and then she'll come up to the main roster, and she's got a potential chance of winning either of those titles too. It's pretty simple. Another person I think is another pretty simple one too, Shayna Baszler. I think that she is. I mean, there's a chance she wins that NXT Women's title at Philly.
Yeah. Oh, there's a huge chance doing that.
And she's got that potential WrestleMania match this year, the 4 Horsewomen thing. She can move up to the Raw or SmackDown roster by the end of the year for sure. I think that they got a lot on Baszler.
Yeah. If we stick with the female side of things, I think Bianca Belair is going to be a big part of NXT this year. I think she was one of the standout people in the Mae Young Classic. She's bred from the performance center, so they've clearly got something behind her there. She's very athletic. She has the gimmick of the ponytail whipping her opponents, so she has something that helps her stand out. She can do a 450 splash, which is pretty impressive.
She can? I don't even remember that.
She did that on Kairi Sane in their match.
Probably too many months ago for me.
it stands out in my mind for that. I think she has like a big thing about her. But if you move to the main roster of women, the one that another one going a bit left field, Mandy Rose.
You have more faith in her than I do.
And that's because she looks like Alexa Bliss. Or it doesn't look like Alexa Bliss. She has. See, I know we've had this women's revolution, and matches qualities have improved. They've been given more time. But let's face it, Alexa Bliss wouldn't have held the title for as long as she has if she wasn't hot. I'm going to agree with that. She's not great in the ring. She's good in the ring. She's not great in the ring. If it was all due to ring quality, she would be nowhere near that championship.
I think it's her character.
It definitely has a lot more promo ability and stuff like that than most women on the roster. But
let's put it this way: did they? We know that Sasha Banks is one of the best in the ring. They've given her 4 title reigns that have only lasted about a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely not all about ring work in that regard. I think Mandy Rose, the Absolution thing will probably collapse within the first few months of 2018. And then I could see her moving to SmackDown and becoming a big part of that. I think she will win one of the women's titles between now and the end of the year.
I hope not.
No, I mean, like, as a pure wrestling fan, I hope not. But, like, I just see her and think, oh, they're going to treat her like they treat Alexa Bliss, even though she's worse than Alexa Bliss in terms of her character and promo work. But they might just see past that.
If anybody gets a push out of Absolution, it's going to be her.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Sonya.
No. I just look at her and think, they'll probably look at her and think, oh, she's a star because she looks like a star and she acts like a star. And to be fair, I think she's better in the ring than Sonya is in terms of a WWE style of, like, the flashy moves and stuff like that. I've never really gravitated to Sonya's style of wrestling.
I've got one other woman on my list, if we're kind of staying with that kind of thing. Zelina Vega. I think she is going to transition and stop being a manager and at some point start wrestling. And if she does that, if she doesn't get called up to the main roster with Andrade Cien Almas, because anytime somebody wins an NXT championship, there's a good chance they move up. If she comes up with him, she'll not get a championship this year. But if she sticks around in NXT, I think that she's going to be a women's champion. If she comes to the main roster, though, she'll still do a better job because she's the best manager that they have right now outside of Paul Heyman. That's for sure. And there's an argument to be made that she's better than Paul Heyman in certain ways. Certainly could rock a ponytail better.
Yes.
So I have 2 other people on my list, but I'll let you guys toss out another couple names if you guys want to. Before I get to my my secondary, not secondary, since there's no order, and then my main one. But
you got any more dice?
No. I'm really banking. I'm putting all my eggs in the Bobby Roode and Zack Ryder baskets.
Well, I'll go for a couple of my bigger ones then, because most of the ones I've mentioned have been a little bit more like out of left field, and some of these still are, but ones that I'm very confident in. Authors of Pain. They're going to come up this year to the main roster, and I think they could almost immediately win a tag team championship.
The not main pick that I have, but the other one that I have, literally starts off with, while I do think the Authors of Pain will move up to the main roster and get a title reign, ...
So, yeah, it makes, like, a lot of sense for them. They've got Paul Ellering, who's a good mouthpiece for them. They've done everything they can do in NXT. I assume they'll lose the match against the Undisputed in Philadelphia. And they could be called up, like, almost immediately after that. And they could take on the Usos if they decide not to go for the Bludgeon Brothers route, or if they could take on like Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins and beat them immediately. Like, they're just a good package as opposed to the other ones, which, well, as opposed to definitely with Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan, they're more of just a placeholder. And then another big one, which is probably quite obvious, is Adam Cole.
I don't see too much going on for him this year, actually. I think he's going to be a little bit underwhelming.
I mean, potentially, they seem to have put a lot of faith into the Undisputed thing, but the fact that he's going to be fighting Aleister Black instead of fighting for the title, it seems like they've delayed his like real title shot for this point. So I'm not entirely convinced, but I like to think that they have something with him in terms of his charisma. But my main person who, and this is definitely sticking my neck out here, because it's probably been said for years and years and years by loads of people, and every single year they've been disappointed. So I'm just going I mean, yeah, they've been disappointed, but for other reasons. So I'm going to go for this. Cesaro is going to get traded to SmackDown and he's going to win the WWE Championship.
Any other year recently for the past like 3 years or so, I would think that would be a little bit too hopeful. But I do think this year it might be the year. I think that they are going to move him over, and I think that he is going to start having some main event feuds. Like, they're going to put him against AJ Styles. They're going to put him against Bobby Roode. They're going to, like... This Sheamus injury, I think, is going to help him.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Wait, Sheamus got hurt?
Oh, he's been hurt, yeah.
He's got spinal stenosis, which is the injury that essentially ended Edge's career.
Oh, not that. Now I sound like a dick.
So he's not injured yet because he's still wrestling, but he's like his days are numbered at this point. But I think but I think his partnership with Cesaro has been fantastic, but I think it's run its course for now. They need to be. I don't think they should be split up like in a feud way because we already saw a lot of that in 2016. So I don't think we need to revisit it. They can just split up amicably in the draft. And then Cesaro moves to SmackDown, because I think if he stays on Raw, he's just going to stay in the mid-card area and just not really do too much. Whereas if he moves to SmackDown, he could become a main eventer immediately.
I've always wanted to see him versus Lesnar.
It's a possibility to happen this year, too, because when he goes on his own, I think it's going to be harder for them to keep him a heel.
I think if they moved into SmackDown, they could keep him as a heel. If they decide to put him against the likes of AJ Styles or Nakamura in the title feuds, they could still keep him as a heel because he does have a certain amount of character there. But if they decide to move him as a babyface, they definitely can because he's just so good in the ring and so popular because of it, then he'll get cheered automatically. I just think this past year, the work that he did as part of the tag team, essentially running Raw's tag team division for the entire year, the fact that he got his teeth knocked out and just still kept wrestling, the fact that he decided to go through all this stupid stuff of talking with his mouth guard on. I think 2017 was the year that proved that he's a company guy through and through. And they may decide to look past any issues they think he has in terms of his charisma or mic skills and finally say, all right, we're finally going to give you the ball. Just see how far you run with it. That's what I hope for anyway, because I think he deserves it. I think he deserves one run at this point.
I think he'll get it, yeah. You were talking about the tag team division. The other one that I had, other than my main pick, is the Revival. I think that they are going to be taking that spot away from the Bar, actually. The Hardy Boys, I don't think are going to really come back this year. I think that Jeff is going to sort of do his own thing, kind of like with Matt Hardy doing his own thing with the Woken thing. And maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but I think that we're going to have a strong feud between the Revival and the Good Brothers. And I could see the Revival being the tag team that beats Jordan and Rollins for the title. Or I don't know if that's going to happen at WrestleMania or what. I don't think WWE has any idea what they want to do for this tag title thing at WrestleMania this year. And there's a good chance that we see another like Fatal 5-Way or something like that. And that could be when the Revival wins. And I think that they're going to make up for last year with the Revival. I think that they're going to give them a strong title win, really kind of book them as like the tag team on Monday Night Raw, and we'll actually see them like be useful instead of just getting injured and everything like that.
Oh, I just heard that Scott Dawson injured his elbow. So.
This is a cop-out, I have to admit. But
Roman
my
Reigns.
main one to watch for 2018 is Braun Strowman. I think
he's done. He's done.
he just got injured too.
Yeah.
He is somebody that I think that they didn't even realize how popular he was when they started pushing him last year. Because there were a lot of people that were not only okay with the idea of him beating Brock Lesnar, but they thought that he was a guarantee to beat Brock Lesnar. And I didn't have that faith. I thought, that I would spend the whole year bitching and complaining about Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, and lo and behold, that's what it seems like we're still getting. But a lot of people were really sold that Braun Strowman could be winning that championship and, headlining WrestleMania and that kind of regard. And I didn't, but I do think he's winning that title this year. And it's more of a situation of not necessarily that he becomes a main eventer, because he already is. I think this is the year where he solidifies that he's the new Big Show or Batista. I think that they're going to push him. It's going to work. He's going to get over as well as we thought that Ryback would back in the day. And he is going to be really setting himself up for position as a future legend. By the end of 2018, I'm expecting Braun Strowman to be somebody that people go, oh yeah, bona fide Hall of Famer in the future.
That's quite a lot, like a few years in, to have that much faith in him.
Yep. I like him.
I do. I feel you on that one, because he's essentially the Giant.
Yeah.
Because he's come in, he's the top, he's the biggest guy, the quote unquote strongest guy. And if Lesnar's really leaving after WrestleMania and Big Show's retiring, he's going to be the monster. So I think this is, like you said, the year he becomes a Hall of Famer for sure.
If this is the way that we think certain things are going to go, like you said, there's a chance that by the end of the year we have, or even by the middle of the year or so, earlier this year was 5 days ago, but 2017, we had Kane, Undertaker, Big Show, Mark Henry. We even had Khali pop up. We don't have Batista anymore, and we don't have any of those guys anymore for the most part. If Kane leaves and Lesnar leaves and Big Show retires, Mark Henry's already gone, Undertaker is potentially done. Braun literally is the only big guy left. The only big guy left.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a pivotal year for him. He needs to, I don't think he necessarily needs to, but it would be a real benefit of him to win either the Universal or WWE Championship this year. I think I keep saying like needs to, but like it's a real boost of his credibility because people know how big he is, and he's already is a main event star and a huge attraction point of Raw, but he just is missing that title win that has eluded him so far.
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that after that title win, it only needs to be one title win, and then he becomes essentially like a new Undertaker, where he doesn't need a title anymore. He can have it occasionally, but he doesn't need it. His feuds are still massively important.
Yep.
And he could main event pay-per-views without having the title attached to him, because he just becomes the guy.
Yeah, he becomes the dude that they start building WrestleMania matches around. Like, we used to say, who's going to get the Shawn Michaels match? Who's going to get the Undertaker match? Who's going to get the Triple H match? So on and so forth. And I think when we start thinking of who's going to get with WrestleMania 35 is next year, right? 34 is this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think by WrestleMania 35, if he's not walking in as champion, we're either going to say he's a guarantee for the Royal Rumble, or we're going to say who gets the Braun Strowman match. And that puts him in a league with legends, essentially.
I think a good thing that would work out for him is if John Cena does get that 17th title win, he's the guy that win it from John Cena.
Oh, yeah. That could be real good for him.
That'd be the hat tip of like, you're the new monster. It kind of mirrors the Giant taking the title from Hulk Hogan in WCW.
And it's finally the comeuppance of John Cena always beating whoever was built up.
Yep.
It's like, nah, he loses this one.
Because I think the only match they've ever had ended in a disqualification. So
yeah,
they have a story there to tell. if they just do it right, which they won't because they never do stories right. So, hopeful.
Nah, we'll get Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns 6 more times or something.
Somehow Alexa Bliss will end up pinning her own partner in the Mixed Match Challenge. And okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm so glad that those two are paired up. It's like 4 times the size for her.
I love the shoulder tap she did to him, where she had to jump up and just smack him.
I think it could also work in the reverse, that Cena's the one that beats Braun for the title, because it would be like, oh god, Cena has to beat the huge star either way, but it gives a sense like this would be a huge moment if Cena wins his 17th title from Braun Strowman, and then Braun Strowman's part of that like historical moment, and then he could be the one that like wins it back from Cena afterwards. But I think him having a feud with Cena in 2018 is probably a guarantee, and he doesn't need to win every battle associated with it, but he needs to win the war. He needs to be the one that finally like leaves a permanent dent on Superman's armor.
Yeah, he needs to be Doomsday.
I'm cool with him killing Cena.
Him versus Samoa Joe is another feud I really want to see. Strowman Joe.
Yeah, but there's loads of people that, I mean, as I said before, with like Cesaro, him against somebody who could basically move someone of his size and girth around like nothing would be a really interesting thing to see. Don't think we've seen Strowman, his capacity with someone like, trying to think, maybe someone like Kevin Owens, just someone who is a good worker surrounding him. I think Strowman's ability is still limited as an actual in-ring performer. He's a lot better than a lot of people his size have been in the past.
Yeah,
but he still needs somebody for the time being to work around him, or to actually take all these massive bumps from the Giant.
Well, you said the Giant. Got it in my head.
Why didn't you start doing Andre's thing? You can't remember it, can you?
Yeah. Holy shit. How does it? Did he have a theme?
I assume so, but I assume it was maybe just the French national anthem or something.
I think it was Bobby Heenan just yelling for the entire route down the ring. Just Andre the Giant.
It's rock solid on Bobby Heenan impression.
Yeah.
All right. So to recap a little bit, my one to watch for 2018, if I have to pick one person that I think is going to be the breakout, standout kind of person that'll maybe, I don't know, jump up the highest rank or something like that, or whatever you want to classify this. I'm going Braun Strowman. Don't have a history of getting this right, so maybe not. Samoa Joe, you didn't win that fucking title last year. God damn it. So that's why I didn't pick you this year. Dace, yours was Bobby Roode, if I remember.
Zack Ryder, obviously.
Zack Ryder over Bobby Roode.
Yeah, I love Bobby, and I think he's the future for being a 40-year-old man. But Zack Ryder has what they call it in the business. Okay, he is going to win it all, everything, all of them.
And Callum, yours was Cesaro.
Cesaro is my number one choice, but I'll just say second choice is Mandy Rose. I've decided now.
Really, Mandy Rose being number 2.
Yeah, if you go just because I don't know, just part of me thinks she's going to win a title this year.
I think my number 2, if I'd have to pick, would be Shayna Baszler. I think that's one of those guarantees. But we want to know what you guys have to say about this. Who are your picks for the Future Endeavors forecast and for the one to watch? Go back on the other one, leave a comment there, and on this one, leave a comment here. Tell us your picks. What do you think about our picks and anything else that you want to sound off on in the comment section below? If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications to be aware of the next thing that we're going to be doing for next week, which I don't know what it is yet. There's a couple ideas that I have in mind. One of them is potentially predictions for the Mixed Match Challenge. One of them is maybe a Smark announce table for another Royal Rumble. I might get Caroline on one of those, because that might be kind of fun. She just gave me this terrified look. So cute. Yeah, I don't know. So if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see for next week, go ahead and drop them in the comments below as well. And if you are following what we got going on, make sure that you follow these guys too. Dace, toss out any plugs you want.
The cool thing is I've consolidated everything into one place. So check out theDaceManShow.com for everything Daceman Show related.
And Callum?
You can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. And just check out all the great articles on smarkoutmoment.com because I write some of them and it makes me happy when you read them.
Okay, everybody, that is it for the main event of episode 318. We will see you in 319, hot tags and everything else coming next week. And that'll do us in. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.